ever crack open one of those super long legal documents, a constitution maybe,
Yeah.
and think, wow, this is asking for trouble.
Probably not, right?
Right.
Most constitutions aren't exactly page turners.
Right.
But they kind of remind me of recipes in a weird way, you know? You throw in the wrong ingredients, miss a crucial step, and the end result is,
Yeah.
well, let's just say it's not winning any awards.
Definitely not.
Today's deep dive. We're heading to Ethiopia, where their constitution, the one they put in place back in 1995, is at the heart of a really complicated battle for peace.
What's really interesting about this, it's not some abstract thing.
Hmm.
Ethiopia is dealing with some serious internal conflicts, and this document that's supposed to bring everyone together,
Yeah.
it's become a bit of a dividing line.
And you send over some seriously in-depth articles on this. What makes the situation in Ethiopia so different, so urgent?
It's complicated. I mean, really complicated. After decades of fighting amongst themselves, they drafted this constitution in 1995, hoping for peace and stability, right?
All right.
But trying to balance that desire for unity with, like, deep-seated ethnic tensions.
Right.
It's a huge challenge.
So creating a system that's both inclusive and unified, easier said than done. One of the articles you sent over highlighted Article 39 of their constitution, the part about self-determination for ethnic groups. That seems to be a major sticking point. How does that one article feed both sides of this argument?
That's the thing. That's where this whole recipe analogy really comes into play. They put Article 39 in there to deal with concerns from groups who felt ignored, marginalized even, hoping to prevent more conflict, you see. It guarantees self-governance, even the right to basically say, we're out, to secede.
So some people see that as essential for peace, while others see it as a recipe for, well, more conflict.
Exactly. On the one hand, you have people who believe that recognizing each group's autonomy, giving them a say in how they're governed, that's the only way to guarantee a lasting peace. They see it as acknowledgement of past wrongs, a way to give these groups a sense of ownership over their own destinies.
And the other side.
They're worried that focusing so much on the rights of individual groups will actually weaken the country as a whole. It's like they're afraid it's just going to lead to even more division and potentially even more conflict.
It's fascinating. You have two completely different visions for the future of Ethiopia, but they both want the same thing, peace.
And here's the kicker. Both sides agree that the Constitution in its current form needs some serious work. They know revisions are necessary. That's actually pretty rare when you have such a divided situation.
Right. But like you said before, actually changing a country's constitution, it's not like, swapping out an ingredient in a recipe.
Right.
One of the sources you sent actually pointed out that there's, and I quote, a lack of clarity and agreement about how to amend the Constitution. How do you even begin to unravel that?
It requires national dialogue, everyone on board willing to compromise. That seems pretty unlikely right now, given the current political climate. And then you have the ticking clock, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's hoping things change before things boil over.
Which brings us to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. He seems to be a pretty central figure in all of this.
Absolutely. Abiy Ahmed has been way more vocal about the need for constitutional reform than any of his predecessors. He sees it as key to his vision of a unified and, importantly, prosperous Ethiopia. But he has to be careful.
Yeah, it's like walking a tightrope, juggling chainsaws at the same time. What has he actually proposed, and how have people responded?
Abiy Ahmed's reform proposals are basically about moving away from this ethnic-based federalism, towards more of a unified national identity.
Right.
But some people see this as a threat to the autonomy they fought for, the autonomy they gained under the current constitution, so there's resistance.
So where does this leave us? Ethiopia is at a crossroads. That's pretty clear.
Definitely. This whole situation really shows how fragile peace can be and how difficult it is to build a stable, inclusive society, especially in a region where the history is complex and, let's be honest, as troubled as Ethiopia's. But this isn't just about Ethiopia, right?
Right.
It reminds us how complicated constitutional reform can be, how important dialogue is, and that search for peace, which never really ends, especially in the world we live in today.
It really makes you think. If you were the one tasked with leading this constitutional reform process, what would your top priority be? Would it be making sure everyone has a voice, or would it be keeping the peace at all costs? Something else entirely. Lots to think about as we learn more about Ethiopia and the challenges they face.